Today, we're speaking to Daniel Abikhair from... Now, I thought, Daniel, you were an independent, but you've just been telling me that you're actually a part of a party. Now, explain that quickly before we get into our questions.
So, with the change of the election, the Save the Planet Party didn't get their registration in time. So it means I'm standing as an independent, endorsed by the Save the Planet Party. It's really great because on all things climate policy, they're the party's policies and I really stand by them, but I'm an independent on everything else and I'm really passionate about standing for that because I'm not hamstrung by anything that a lot of the other people are.
Tell us something about you that we wouldn't have found out during this campaign if I hadn't have asked you now.
So, inspired by a little article in the Bendigo Addy, when I first moved up here for uni, didn't quite have a house yet, so I used to sleep up on One Tree Hill under the trees each night. And for the first 6 weeks until myself and a few other fellas from uni managed to find a house in Quarry Hill there. And so yeah.
You were living under the stars for the first, how long?
Yeah, it was about 6 weeks. I think we got it, we were here mid-Feb and we eventually got moved in the house early April. And it wasn't such a bad thing because I'd spent the previous 2 years living out bush, working in outdoor education anyway.
Now, in this article, was it talking about the legalities involved in camping out One Tree Hill?
No, this article was, talking about the homelessness.
Okay.
Being really, federal politicians completely ignoring that as an issue. And so also some social workers from Bendigo talking about the amount of care that they put in and the need for more funding and it's going to take a lot of work from a lot of people to help homeless people in our community.
Okay, well, I've got a feeling you might be getting a question about that coming up a little later. Time is up on that one. Next question from me. Tell us, in your mind, what are the three most important issues for Bendigo at this federal election?
In my mind, we're not looking at the horizon with what we're doing enough. Our leaders are focusing on the car bonnet right there in front of them. Climate change is the single biggest issue facing humanity, and if we don't appropriately deal with that in the next 10 years, there's going to be some serious consequences across for all of us, and we're a very big part of humanity here in Central Victoria, and we need to focus on that. Related to that is cost of living, and a lot of people have been talking about that. I do believe that the more we go down the track that we're currently on, the higher those costs are, because the people that run the thing don't really care about the average punter, only a vote. And also, I think the third biggest issue that seems to be going on is the lack of compassion that is happening in Australia and our lack of love for our neighbours. And I think the asylum seeker policies are really debate is a really big.
There you go. Time's up. The cannon has sounded. Last question from me before we throw it open to our listeners on 13 27 10. Why should the people of Bendigo vote for Daniel Abikhair?
Because I'm focused on the future. I have no interest in being a career politician. Money means absolutely nothing to me. The money that would be paid to a politician, I'd rather spend in my electorate doing good things for people. Instead of sending daily mail outs to people, I'd rather be feeding people, housing people. I have no interest in the game. I have no interest in the politics of it. I have an interest in representing a community, and I have an interest in us being appropriately fed, housed and living in a safe environment. And I think we can do that if we leave politics behind and we act as a community.
There you go, 20 seconds still.
I'm happy with that.
There you go. Look at that. Confident in the answer. Well done, mate. Now, okay, what we're going to do now is throw it open to our 3BO family. 13 27 10 is our number here, and we try and get them to... Daniel Abikhair, who's an independent but also being endorsed by the Save the Planet Party, is with me. He's answered the three questions from me. Well done, Daniel. And can I just say well done on that beard? It's amazing, and I've got a little bit of beard envy.
Yours is pretty rad yourself.
Well, it's nothing in comparison, but I digress. Steve has given us a call on 13 27 10. G'day, Steve.
Yeah, g'day there, Sam.
Mate, now you've got a question for Daniel. What would you like to ask him?
My question is, we're sort of grown up, well, we're brought up to be honest and straight up with people, but when people hit politics, their personalities change, and all those things that were brought up being taught, sort of, to me, it disappears.
So when we chatted on the phone before, Steve, you mentioned that you heard Daniel say, how do you leave the politics behind?
And
you want to... Yeah.
That was it. Thanks, Sam, yeah.
No worries, mate. Daniel.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Steve. And yeah, I really do agree with you. Growing up in Australia and seeing what's going on at the political level, it is really hard to see where people's values go when they hit politics. I never thought I'd be here in this position, that's for sure. And I reckon it is a very hard thing trying to not become dominated by the ego and, I guess, self-interested groups that go on in politics. Politics is inherently something that favours certain groups, certain values of certain people. And I think the way to get beyond that is actually just to represent all of us, like every human. And to me, so that's every human living in the Bendigo electorate, but thinking globally as well, and that's every human. And to move beyond politics, I think we need to do what is right, do what we know to be morally right and ethically right, and love everyone else that's around us, and really just do what's best.
There we go, Steve. Thank you so much for the call, mate. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. Cheers, mate.
Well done to Steve for calling in on 13 27 10. A couple more that have come through, and we've been lucky that we've had some people that have got in touch with us during the week and said they'd like these questions to be asked to everybody that comes in the door. So a couple more questions here from our 3BO Facebook page. Justine has wanted me to ask every candidate that comes in, what's you and your party's stance on gay marriage?
No worries. That's a really good question, and certainly one that I can see is quite topical at this election. My personal stance on it is that in Australia there's a separation of church and state. So there's marriages before God for whatever religion, and there's marriages, the civil marriage as part of our country. If two people love each other and they choose to get married, they can get married in a civil marriage ceremony and be a registered couple in Australia. We're not forcing, I don't seek to force that upon any certain religious groups. But it is, if two people love each other, they should be able to get married and should have the same rights as everyone else.
There you go, Justine. Question answered from Daniel there. Okay, now Glennis has been asking a lot of people that have come on to the show and the candidates, where do you stand and what would you do about the homeless situation in Bendigo if you were elected?
It's a really good question. Yeah, I know what it's like to be homeless, but I guess I've been very lucky because, I've always got people to call on if I need to be, and that's homeless through choice. So it's very different. But I'm also more than happy sleeping under a tree. I do that quite a few nights every year because I work in outdoor education. I'm out bush in a sleeping bag. What needs to happen is we need to help people to understand that they can be the solution, that the community can be the solution to this. Look at how many free beds there are in every home around Bendigo every night. The community can stand up and we can house people. We as a community don't have to wait for politicians to throw money around. But I definitely think that this is an issue that our funding should be addressing. We as a community can help the homeless of Bendigo by opening our houses and feeding people and housing people because we have the resources.
Well said. Okay, now, preferences. This is from Jan. She's asking, where are you putting your preferences at this election?
Yeah, that's another really good question. We seek not to do any deals. We seek it to be completely transparent. And so all our preferences are based upon the climate policy or lack of climate policy by any of the candidates standing. I've called a number of them to ask if they didn't have a policy, if they had any personal views on that, and we rank them accordingly to that. At the moment, I think my preferences should be out this afternoon, and it's purely based on climate policy, and there's no other any consideration taken in.
So can you give us the scoop of who it's going to be?
In Bendigo, Greens came up second, and the independent, Martin Romani, came in third. He's not a lot of depth there, but he's certainly speaking a lot about how we need to go about making that transition to being a more climate resilient community in Central Victoria and the Macedon Ranges.
Daniel, right in the nick of time. Cannon, gone. Mate, thank you so much for being on the 3BO Morning Show. Catch up with the candidates. Good luck in your campaign so far. Not long to go now. September 7th is election day. Thanks for making the time to come and have a chat to me and our 3BO family.
Yeah, cheers, Sam. And it happens to be World Beard Day on the election day. And
is it really?
As another man sporting a good beard in front of me there, I'm the only candidate with a beard. So, there's another reason to to vote for Bushy for Bendigo.
Oh, that's very funny. I've had my vote canvassed for a whole lot of reasons, but never because of some facial hair on 93.5 3BR FM. That's catch up with the candidates. Be back on Tuesday.